Hey everyone, how y'all doing? Welcome and welcome back to my channel. So in honor of Valentine's Day, I thought that it would be so fun to tier rank every single romance book that I have ever read. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's just get right on into it. So the top tier is Soulmates. So these are the top of the top, the best of the best, my absolute favorite romance books of all time. So this top tier is really reserved for those ultimate favorite romance books. Then we have To the Moon and To Saturn, which is a little Taylor Swift reference there. Books that I really love, just not quite soulmate material. Then we have Crush Worthy. These are romance books that I really enjoyed, but they're not like absolute favorite. They were just kind of, you know, really good. Then we have Swoon, which are for books that I enjoyed but maybe like don't remember much from, or like just don't have a lot of feelings or opinions on, or maybe because I read them so long ago, like I just don't know if I would feel the same about them right now if I were to reread them. That one's just like, you know, the middle of the road kind of tier. Then we have Zero Chemistry. So this tier is for those romance books I just really didn't click with, the ones that are just not for me at all. Then we have Gives Me the Ick, which are for the books I just absolutely did not like, and thinking about them makes me feel all icky and gross and like, why did I even read this kind of thing. And then the final tier is I read this, meaning I simply have like no memory of reading this book, or I forgot that I read this book. I felt like there were a couple of books on this list that would belong in that category. I just like didn't know where else it would go, so I read this. Pretty forgettable, I would say. So let's just get right on into it. I think we have 81 books to tier rank today. I'm only doing adult romances, by the way, not YA, just adult. And there were some books that I kept off of the list simply because they kind of towed the line between a romance book and maybe a fiction book, or a romance and just something else. So I tried to stick it to the ones that just really felt like romance books to me, if that makes any sense. Okay, so we are starting off strong with The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I read this back in 2022, I believe, and I've yet to read any other Ali Hazelwood books despite owning a fair few of them. I really enjoyed this book when I read it, but I wouldn't say it's like an ultimate favorite or anything. There were definitely a lot of cringy parts to it, a lot of things in the writing that just kind of took me right out of the story, particularly in the more sexy scenes, which is like, why would you describe it like that? You know, so there's a few cringy things in this book that I can't necessarily put it in one of these top tiers. I'm gonna say this one is crush worthy because there were a lot of things I did enjoy. I did really like the romance overall. I'm a huge fake dating fan, as we all know. So if a book has fake dating, it already gets extra points in my book. So I feel like this is a good tier. I can already picture in my head that it's not gonna belong to the books that are gonna go into this second tier here. So crush worthy. Then we have The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I already know where I'm gonna put this. Okay, so let's just do it. It's going straight into Soulmates. I will be the first to admit, okay, that this book is cringy. This book is a little weird. There are elements to our love interest Josh and things that he does that are kind of creepy and weird. But what this book did for me when I read it, and every time that I reread it, it simply belongs nowhere else other than Soulmates, okay? Because this book makes me swoon. It makes me like giggle and like kick my feet like a little girl. There is just something in this book that I can't really explain or justify. It gets me every single time, okay? It is like not the best, I will give it that. Like objectively, this is not the best romance book on this list. Okay, if this was objective, it would go way lower down, but this is subjective, and I love that book to pieces. It is absolutely one of my favorite romance books, and I don't care what anybody else has to say about that. I love that book so much, so it absolutely belongs in Soulmates. There is something about that book and me that just clicks so perfectly. It's literally nothing other than Soulmates. Then we have Sally Thorne's second novel, 99% Mine, which I read a lot more recently. And this one, I would say, is between Crushworthy and Swoon. I think I might put it in Swoon because I really enjoyed it, but honestly, once I finished reading it, because I think I was reading a bunch of other things at the time, I like couldn't fully remember everything about it. It's like brother's best friend vibes. It's really cute, but there were just a couple of things that bothered me, particularly the possessiveness of the love interest for our main character. Like, they weren't dating, nothing was happening between them, but if any other guy tried to talk to her, he immediately got in their faces, and that kind of energy kind of pushed me off. Like, it could have, if it was a little less intense, it could have been cute, it could have been seen in like a flirty, protective, jealous kind of way, but I think at some points it was taken a little too far, and it did kind of rub me the wrong way despite me really enjoying it. So I think I could potentially put it up to crush worthy, but I think for now I'll put it in swoon. Then we have Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover, which is the only Colleen Hoover book that I have ever read, and I read it back when I was 15, I want to say, back when she was initially popular on booktube, well before the booktok resurgence that just kind of like blew her up. And I will say, at the time that I read this, I enjoyed it. Would I enjoy it now? Perhaps. I have no idea. But simply because I don't fully respect Colleen Hoover as a person or as a writer, don't agree with things that I've heard about her books or heard about her, I'm gonna put this in gives me the ick. I can't put it in I read this because I do remember reading it and I do remember things from it, and I did enjoy it at the time. Like, I think at the time I was rating books and it was a 5-star read for me, but now, a decade later, it gives me the ick a little bit that I read it, you know? So then we have a bunch of Christina Lauren books. So this is the Christina Lauren segment of the video. So this is in no particular order of when I read them, but the first one is Roomies. I feel like I'm gonna need to be a little selective with these ones, so I'm just gonna rank them how I feel in the moment for each individual book, and then I might have to do some adjusting once I see what they land next to, you know, because they simply can't all go into soulmates, but a lot of them probably will. So Roomies by Christina Lauren, I already know, is immediately going into soulmates. I loved this book so much. I read it a year ago and just everything about it worked for me. It was marriage of convenience. The love interest was Irish, and I was honestly picturing Niall Horan the entire time that I read it, so that was beautiful. It dealt with like Broadway, which was really exciting, and just like the chemistry between the main characters, but also the conflict was done really well. Just everything about this book absolutely worked for me and felt like it was made for me. I loved it so much. So then we have My Favorite Half Night Stand, which I also read a year ago, and this one I think I'm gonna put in to the Moon and to Saturn because I loved it. I really loved it. It was just friends to lovers excellency, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. But just because I know I have a lot of Christina Lauren books on this list and a lot that I potentially like more than this book, I think it's just To the Moon and to Saturn. Then we have The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren, which I read years ago and honestly don't remember too much from besides like the generic plot and maybe like inklings of some scenes. I really enjoyed this book. I'm definitely due for a reread, but I really loved it when I read it, so I think I'm gonna do To the Moon and to Saturn. I think I can't put Christina Lauren lower than that. You know, it just feels wrong. Then we have Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren as well, and this one again immediately up into soulmates. I would say this is maybe my favorite Christina Lauren book, potentially, maybe, I don't know. I also just realized I'm totally forgetting one of their books. I forgot to put Twice in a Blue Moon. Oh my god, how did I forget that book? That would have gone in crush worthy, just so we're aware, but anyways, yeah. Okay, the next one is Dating You, Hating You, and this one, ooh, this one is going to go, oh no. I'm stuck between Swoon and Zero Chemistry. I did enjoy it, but it was definitely less of a romance book than their other ones. I think I'm gonna put in Zero Chemistry. Okay, I totally lied when I said that Christina Lauren can't go lower than these two tiers because immediately I just put that so low down on the list. It was not bad. I think I just went into it the wrong expectations. Then we have Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, which again, going straight up into soulmates. I think I loved that book so much. Another really great friends to lovers dynamic. I really loved it. I think that's where it's gonna go. We'll rank the rest and then it could possibly move down. I don't know, we'll have to see. But we have The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. I don't know why I keep saying the authors. We know who these authors are, okay? We're still in the Christina Lauren segment of the video. I really enjoyed this book. I'm gonna put it To the Moon and to Saturn. I really liked it. I loved that the main character was a single mother. I liked seeing the romance develop between her and the love interest. The whole premise of like this app that can like determine your soulmate. I thought that was really interesting. I don't know, that one I might move down just because I feel like I don't remember everything, but I remember really enjoying it. Honestly, some of these Christina Lauren books blur together because I read some of them during one vlog that like took place over a week. So like Rumi's My Favorite Half Night Stand, The Soulmate Equation, Dating You, Hating You, Twice in a Blue Moon, like those were all in the span of a week that I read them. So we'll see. The True Love Experiment I also read during that 1 week for a vlog. This one I think I liked less than The Soulmate Equation, if I remember correctly. So that one's gonna go in Crushworthy. Okay, I think I feel good about this. I think. Now, Josh and Hazel's is gonna go to the moon and to Saturn. If I'm asked my favorite romance books, I don't know if that would be one of the first ones to come up, whereas these ones definitely would be. So I think for right now, I feel good about that. Some might move down to Crushworthy. We'll have to see how I feel. But the last Christina Lauren book is in a Holidays, and this one is in Soulmates. I love that book so much. It's absolutely my favorite holiday romance. I cannot wait to reread it this year because I did not read it last year. But it's just so much fun. It's like a Groundhog Day situation, but at the holidays. And I thought it was so fun. There's a lot of really cute moments. Like there's one part where they're like sitting under the Christmas tree together and just looking up into like the lights in the Christmas tree. And for some reason, I just love that so much. So definitely Soulmates. So then we have my Sophie Sullivan collection. So we have 10 Rules for Faking It by Sophie Sullivan. This one absolutely is Soulmates. Oh my goodness, I love this book with every fiber of my being. It truly feels like it was made for me. The anxiety rep in this book feels so realistic and true to my own experience. There were so many lines and like things that the main character would talk about where I was like, oh my god, like I understand that so deeply and I feel that so viscerally that I just, oh my god, I love it so much. So just like for the anxiety rep alone, Soulmates, but the romance on top of it was also so good. Then we have How to Love Your Neighbor, also by Sophie Sullivan, and I think that one is going to go into the moon and to Saturn. I just feel like I have to differentiate between 10 Rules for Faking It and How to Love Your Neighbor and like just the rest of her books in general, because I feel like nothing beats 10 Rules for Faking It for me just because of how connected I felt to it. I feel like maybe all of her books are going to go into that next tier. A Guide to Being Just Friends, I feel like Ulsa's going to go there. Love Naturally, also going to go there. Can't Help Falling in Love, also gonna go there. These ones are all so good. So these three are all in the same series, so they feature characters from the other books. And then we have A Convenient Christmas by Jodie Holford, which is Sophie Sullivan's other writing name. It's her actual name. Sophie Sullivan's the pen name. That one I'm going to put in Swoon. That one I enjoyed, just not as much as these ones. And honestly, I don't remember a whole lot about it besides the fact that it reminds me of like a Lifetime Hallmarky kind of Christmas movie that I love about a personal shopper. And that's about it. So really enjoyed it. Will be rereading it at some point. I like these ones more. Then we have Landline by Rainbow Rowell. And this one's really interesting. I don't love Rainbow Rowell anymore. I don't really support her or her books anymore, but I do love Landline, and I think I'm gonna put it in Crushworthy. I don't know if I really want to rate it higher than that, but it's a really good book. I just don't fully support Rainbow Rowell anymore. Then we have Attachments, also by Rainbow Rowell, and this was one of the first romance books that I ever read. I read it when I was 15, I think 16, and this one I loved at the time, but in hindsight I'm not sure if I would still like it just based on the premise alone. It's like about this like IT guy, I think, who like falls in love with this girl through her emails. Like he has to kind of like screen the office's emails to make sure that they're like, you know, on topic, and like he flags things and reports things that they're inappropriate to be using your work email for. But he ends up just like reading these two girls' emails, like their exchanges with each other, and he falls in love with one of them. And so like even though they're talking about things that they shouldn't be talking about through their work email, he doesn't report them. He just kind of reads the emails, and that's like an invasion of privacy, it feels like, to just like continually read them. And it also just like feels really creepy. So like while I enjoyed it at the time, little 15-year-old me, I don't think I would like it now. So it low-key gives me the ick, just that whole premise of it. I really, oh, I don't know. I have read every single Emily Henry book and I have loved every single Emily Henry book. So these ones are going to be really fun to rank. So we have Beach Read. That one's going to go straight into Soulmates. I adore that book so much. I read it and it was like instantly a new favorite book of all time. Like, that book I've reread multiple times. It hits for me every single time. It's emotional, it's beautiful, it's heartfelt. It's about writers, which I just adore. There's so many things in that book for me to connect and love. So absolutely, it's my favorite Emily Henry book. It has to go up in Soulmates. Then we have People We Meet on Vacation, which was previously my least favorite Emily Henry book, but upon a reread of this book and a couple of her others, I think it's bumped up potentially. That one I'm gonna move to the Moon and to Saturn. I really enjoyed my reread of it, but I don't think it's quite on the same level as Beach Read for me. Then we have Book Lovers, which I think actually went down in my rating when I reread it. I don't know why, but that one I'm also gonna put into the Moon and to Saturn. Again, don't think I could give Emily Henry anything less than these top 2 tiers. But the next one is Happy Place. That one is going straight up into Soulmates. I adore that book so much. I feel like that one's quite polarizing amongst Emily Henry fans. Either you love it or you don't, and I love it. Funny Story, I think potentially also in Soulmates. I really enjoyed that book. It was like such a wacky premise that is sometimes hard to explain, but it's so fun. And the fake dating, and our main character is a children's librarian, like just everything about it I adored. And it also pulled me out of a really bad mood when I read it, so I appreciate it for that escapism as well. I was trying to be really picky with this top tier and I just can't help it. I love so many romance books. Then we have the few Abby Jimenez books that I've read. I read these all last year. So we have Part of Your World, which is the first book in this little companion series. So this one I'm going to put in, oh, I'm trying to like remember the plot of the book for a minute. I really enjoyed it. Maybe Crush Worthy for right now. I just want to see where I end up landing on the other 2. Yours Truly had really good anxiety rep, which I forgot to mention when I talked about them in my favorite books of the year video. This one I think I'm gonna do To the Moon and to Saturn, potentially. I just feel like these ones aren't my like absolute like ride or die favorites. I just really loved them. So just for the summer, I think I'm also gonna put Into the Moon and to Saturn. That feels right to me because I did like these 2 more than Part of Your World. Then we have this little series, which is still ongoing. I think it's just called Small Town Big Magic. There might be another series name, but it's like a witchy small town kind of romance series. It's really fun. So Small Town Big Magic, I'm gonna place in Crushworthy. I love it. Don't think it belongs in these top 2 tiers. Big Little Spells, I'm gonna put in Swoon. I think I liked it less than Small Town Big Magic, if I'm remembering correctly. But the third book, Truly Madly Magically, I really love. But I think I'm gonna put on the same tier as Small Town Big Magic. Then we have The Charm Offensive by Allison Cochran. This one I really enjoyed, but it's told, if my memory is correct, it's told in a 3rd person present tense, which for me always reads a little stilted. I think it's because I write my outlines for my novels in 3rd person present, so when I read books like that, it feels like my outlines, if you know what I mean. Like it's not a tense and POV that I associate with actual novels. I associate it with my outlines, and so when I'm reading it in a novel, it's very jarring for me, and it like takes me a second to like ignore how it's written and just enjoy the story. I'm gonna put it in Swoon because it's just not one that I think about very often, but I did enjoy it when I read it. Then we have Kiss Her Once for Me, also by Allison Cochran. This one I also think I'm gonna put into Swoon. I liked it more than The Charm Offensive, but I don't think about it very often. Then we have Ashley Poston. My goodness, I love Ashley Poston. I'm gonna put The Dead Romantics straight up in Soulmates. I adore that book so much. It's about an author and an editor and ghosts and funeral homes, and it's devastatingly sad, but also has like a really good romance in it, and I just love Ashley Poston's writing. I always have. So The Dead Romantics, top tier, I think, as well as The 7 Year Slip. Those books are always ones that come to mind when I think of romance books that I love. And then our novel Love Story, while I also deeply loved this book, I'm gonna put that one into the Moon and to Saturn, simply because the ending of the book didn't fully hit for me. It was just kind of like a last second conflict that didn't really feel necessary, and it got wrapped up really quickly, and just the ending of the book I don't feel was her strongest. So I don't feel right putting it up here with these 2, because these ones were just perfect in my opinion. So they're just not really on the same playing field, but I loved A Novel Love Story for the most part, so it still belongs really high up on this list. Oh my god, we have so many left to go through. We have Ashley Herring Blake now. We have the first book in the Bright Falls series, I think it's called. I've only read the one, but Delilah Green Doesn't Care, I'm gonna put in Swoon. It's another one that I really enjoyed. I just do not think about it very often. I still want to finish the companion series, I just haven't gotten around to it. So this one, good, liked it, would recommend. It's just not one that I think about super often. Make the Season Bright, I think I potentially enjoyed more than Delilah Green, so I'm gonna put that one in crushworthy. It was a Christmas book, really cute. My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. This one gives me the ick. I did not like this book really at all. I tried so hard and I wanted to like it, but it was just too weird for me. I did not like how vampires were in this book. Did not love the writing. The sex scene had some really like weird lines. Like I was enjoying it until this one thing was said and it completely took me out of it, and then I just couldn't enjoy it anymore. Like this one was just weird. I did not like it, which was so disappointing. So now we have Emily Wibberley and Austin Siegman Baroka's adult romances. So we have the Roughest Draft, which I immediately have to put into soulmates. This is about co-writers who had kind of a falling out, but they are still contracted to write one more book, so they have to come back together to write this final book. And the way they always write their books is they like rent out this like cabin place, this like beach house I think, and they stay there for the duration of writing the book. And so when they come to finish this contracted book, they're secluded in this beach house together, but they're not getting along. So like they're trying to write a book together, they're trying to like reconnect again, while also like things coming to the surface from their past and the reason why they had a falling out. It was really, really good, and I desperately want to reread it, and I think I'm going to have to do that soon because it's just absolutely one of my favorites. But then we also have Do I Know You, which is about this married couple who goes on this vacation together, but they haven't really been connecting recently, and so they decide to like pretend to not know each other for the duration of the vacation, and then they end up like remembering why they fell in love with each other, and they end up having fun together again. This one I love, not as much though as The Roughest Draft, so I'm gonna put it down into the Moon and to Saturn. Then we have The Breakup Tour, which was their release from last year, and this one straight up to soulmates. My goodness, I loved this book so much. It was absolutely one of my favorite books that I read last year, and one of my favorite books now of all time. I really enjoyed it. Definitely Taylor Swift coded, another second chance romance, forced proximity. Like so many of my favorite things are in this book, and like oh my god, the ending where like they get back together, so good, so satisfying. I'm obsessed with that book, and again desperately need a reread. Then we have Makeup Breakup by Lily Menon. This one was an office romance, like a workplace romance, and I really loved it. Don't remember too many things about it though. 100% I'm due for a reread of it, but this one I'm gonna put in crushworthy. No, this one's gonna go up to the Moon and to Saturn. It does not belong with these books. I love it a lot, I'm just struggling to remember specifics, but that doesn't mean I don't love it. That's just because I have a bad memory. So this one, beautiful, loved it. I love Lily Menon. I just adore her and her writing, and I really loved seeing her like delve into the adult market and writing an adult romance. It was really good. Then we have the X-Hex trilogy. The X-Hex, absolutely going into soulmates. This book is the perfect spooky romance. I'm obsessed with it. Absolutely, I reread it every single year. It is absolutely stunning. The Kiss Curse, however, I'm gonna put down to the Moon and to Saturn. Loved it, just not as much as the X-Hex. It's very close though. I don't know why I don't love it as much as the X-Hex, but it is almost there. However, The Wedding Witch, which was the finale that was just published last year, this one left a little bit to be desired. So this one, while I still enjoyed it, I think I might put Crushworthy or Swoon. Maybe Swoon. That one just did not hit for me the same. There's like a time travel element to it, but I didn't feel like it was done extremely well. That one was ultimately disappointing, I'm not gonna lie. It also didn't have the same like spooky vibe to it. I feel like it was almost too much of a departure from the first two books. Like I feel like Erin Sterling wanted to do something a little bit different, but that's personally just not what I wanted from the book. I would have preferred if it was in the same town as the first two books, if we got to see more of the characters from the other two books, and if maybe there was no time travel. Basically, if it was an entirely different book, maybe I would have enjoyed it more. I'm just being honest, it's not really what I wanted from the conclusion to the series. And then we have my Livy Hart segment. I adore her, and I feel like you guys are not going to be surprised by how I rank these. Talk Flirty to Me, absolutely right to the top to Soulmates. That book, again, just feels made for me. Second chance romance. It's so flirty and funny and steamy, and just everything about that book I love. I've read it maybe like 4 times now. I've read it quite a few times, and I'm just obsessed with it. I never get tired of it. Planes, Trains, and All the Feels I also really love, but for some reason I don't remember like too much about it. So I feel like for that I have to put it into the Moon into Saturn. I also feel like I just have to differentiate from Talk Flirty to Me because that's like my top tier book. We also have Some Kind of Blunderful, which, oh my god, I also really loved. This one I kind of also feel like putting in Soulmates. Yeah, I'm just gonna do it. That one had a lot of interesting dynamics in it, a bit of a forbidden romance. There's so many good elements in that book. I adore it so much. But then we have The Great Dating Fake Off, and this one I'm also gonna put into the Moon into Saturn. This one is another fun fake dating book, but it's like our main characters are going to this wedding, but they're fake dating other people, but they both have crushes on each other. These ones I feel like I just need to reread. I feel like I don't remember specifics of either of these. So with a reread, these will probably move up to Soulmates. I just have a shit memory, and so I feel like I can't differentiate them, you know? Then we have the Brown Sisters trilogy by Talia Hibbert. Get a Life, Chloe Brown, immediately going up into Soulmates. I'm actually quite pleased with how many books are going into Soulmates. I wanted to be like picky about it because it's supposed to be like the best of the best, but this just proves that I read a lot of really good romance books. Okay, like I can't help it. I can't help it if these 2 top tiers are stacked with amazing books. It's better than the alternative of like this one having too much. Like there's not even anything in I read this yet, so that's good. But Get a Life, Chloe Brown is just absolutely one of my favorites. The steamy scenes are so good, and just the characters are so fun as well. I really love the connection that our 2 main characters have, Chloe and Red, and they both feel like full characters, and I just love the way that they interact with each other. Take a Hint, Dani Brown, also immediately going into Soulmates. This one has everything that I love about Get a Life, Chloe Brown, but it has fake dating, and I love it. And I just love how different Chloe and Dani are as our protagonists. Then we have Actor Age Eve Brown, which I'm unfortunately going to just put into the Moon into Saturn. I know that this is a lot of people's favorite in the trilogy. I think I need to reread it. I reread these ones, haven't reread this one ever, so I feel like that's putting it at a disadvantage because I don't remember it as well, but I remember really loving it. The next one is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This one is not in I read this because I remember reading it and I remember things from it. It does not give me the ick necessarily. I think this one potentially is in Zero Chemistry, but like looking at it next to Dating You, Hating You, like I definitely disliked it more than I didn't love Dating You, Hating You. So maybe it does go and gives me the ick. I don't know if that's like the terminology specifically that I would use to talk about this book, but I think just in terms of where the other books are and what tier that is, like what level it's at, I feel like it has to go in that tier. I just really didn't like it. It was just kind of not what I was expecting, I guess, from the book. Then we have I've Got Your Number by Sophie Kinsella, and this is I think our first one going into I read this. This I read as an audiobook maybe in 2019, 2018, I don't know. I feel like I listened to it while working on my bullet journal, so it must have been in 2019. I remember nothing from this book besides our main characters meeting, I think, in an elevator potentially, and I feel like there might have been a ladder involved at one point. I could be making that up. This book left no imprint on me whatsoever, and I genuinely forget about it most of the time. The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. I loved this book, and I've been dying to read the second book in the series, but the release date just keeps getting pushed back, which is so tragic. This one I'm going to put into the Moon and to Saturn. I really adored this book, and I cannot wait to reread it. Then we have Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne. I just realized this should have been with the other Sally Thorne books. I think it's because it looks so different that I just like didn't connect it in my brain when I was organizing these books, but Angelica Frankenstein, Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne. This one I'm gonna put in Swoon. I liked it, very middle of the road for me. Like, I don't remember it super clearly, so I feel like maybe with a reread it could go up to crush worthy, but no higher than that. Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. This one, we're gonna rank it and then we're gonna talk about how I feel conflicted about it. I'm just gonna rank it based on how I felt when I read it, and for that one I'm gonna put it in crush worthy. This book is a very complicated one for me. I adored it. I read it in one sitting, could not put it down. I sobbed my little eyes out. It was so devastating. Loved the movie as well with Sam Claflin. My god, he did an amazing job. But there are some issues with this story in terms of representation that I've heard from people about being quadriplegic, because that's what Sam Claflin's character is. I think his name is Will, but people were not happy with how his character was represented and his like attitude toward things. Like, people were just not happy with the representation, and I think that's totally fair. I can't speak on it because I'm not quadriplegic, so it's not my place to say if the representation was good or not. It's just what I've heard, but I can't discount that I did enjoy it at the time that I read it, and I still do enjoy the movie. So it's problematic, but it's still a story that I enjoyed. Then we have Would Like to Meet by Rachel Winters. This one I'm gonna put in Swoon, potentially. Oh, I don't know if I feel right about that next to the other ones. Maybe Zero Chemistry. I feel like that's a little bit rude because I do enjoy that book, but just looking at the other ones, I feel like it doesn't match. You know, maybe if I move 99% Mine up, that kind of feels a bit better to me. Yeah, like this is one that I like, but I just kind of, you know, don't think about it very often, which is kind of these ones, whereas I do think about 99% Mine a little bit more. Then we have A Merry Little Meet Cute by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone. This is a steamy holiday romance that follows a porn star who accidentally gets cast in a Hallmark Christmas movie alongside her boy band crush, who also happens to be a huge fan of her work. So it's a very fun book. This one I'm gonna put in crush worthy just because I have never reread it, don't remember everything, really want to reread it, hopefully will reread it this year, but yeah, I just don't remember everything about it, but I remember really enjoying it. Then we have If the Shoe Fits, also by Julie Murphy. This one I think I'm gonna put also in crush worthy. I really enjoyed it. I want to own a copy of it. I want to continue on with this kind of series. Then we have Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. This one is like about a character who like drunkenly gets married in Vegas to a stranger, but then she decides to stay married to this person, so she like moves in with her and like get to know each other while they're already married. I thought it was a really interesting story. I don't think about this book ever, honestly. It's so sad. This one I'm going to put in Zero Chemistry, not because I think it belongs here necessarily. I think about these ones more, if you know what I mean. It's also been quite a few years since I read it, so I don't remember most things from it. I don't remember in-depth thoughts that I had on it. So we have a bunch of Nicholas Sparks. So we're gonna go through these quickly because I don't support Nicholas Sparks anymore. I don't like him as an author. I don't like his books anymore. We have Nights in Rodanthe. This one is in I Read This. We have The Best of Me, which I enjoyed. I feel like I enjoy his movies in general as a rule more than his books. I feel like I'm gonna put this in Zero Chemistry. It was fine. The Longest Ride, also gonna go in Zero Chemistry. The Notebook, I feel like I'm just gonna put all of these. The Choice actually is gonna go in I Read This because I remember literally nothing about that book. Dear John, actually I don't remember The Notebook or Dear John as a book at all, so I'm kind of gonna put Dear John there as well, maybe The Notebook as well. Safe Haven, however, I'm gonna put in Swoon. I do like Safe Haven. I haven't reread the book since I was a kid, so maybe I'd like it less, but I love that movie. So we have Not the Witch You Wed by April Asher. This one I'm gonna put in Swoon. I really enjoyed it. I do feel like the beginning was a bit slow, like it took a while to get to the fake dating. I enjoyed it. I want to continue the series. It's another like companion type series. One Day in December by Josie Silver gives me the ick. I hate this book. I don't like this book at all. It's so weird being in love with your best friend's boyfriend just because like you saw him first and like you feel like you have this ownership over him even though like he's with your best friend. It was very strange. Payback's a Witch doesn't give me the ick, but it belongs in that tier regardless. Like I did not enjoy that book. Actually no, maybe it's in Zero Chemistry. I liked it more than One Day in December. It wasn't what I was wanting. I wanted more revenge, less of whatever we got. You know, the revenge wasn't in the forefront as much as I wanted it to be. The Romance Recipe I'm gonna put in Gives Me the Ick. No, Also zero chemistry. Did not love this book, but there were a few things I did enjoy. I just feel like the romance went way too quickly. The book, I was under the impression, was about a cooking show, but the whole book is actually a lead up to the cooking show, whereas I thought it was going to be like the entire book was them competing in a show, like kind of like the reality show books are. It was not that, so it was just not what I was wanting from it. And then there was a sex scene where they are having sex on a table in their restaurant, and it just felt really unsanitary to me. I'm like, you make food on this on this counter, on this table, and I don't care how well you sanitize it, that makes me uncomfy. Like, you own this restaurant and you're just having sex willy-nilly in the kitchen. It's weird. I didn't like it. Wanderlust by L. Everhart. This one I'm gonna put in Crushworthy. Actually, no, maybe Swoon. I really enjoyed it. I just genuinely don't remember anything about it, which is quite unfortunate. The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. This one I'm also gonna put in Swoon. I enjoyed it. The fake dating aspect of it wasn't what I wanted it to be, but as I was reading it, once I adjusted my like expectations for the fake dating trope in context of the story, I ended up enjoying it more. It's just not fully what I wanted from it, and also I remember nothing about it. Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This one's gonna go into Crushworthy. I don't love it as much as some people love it. It's another one written in third person present tense, which, like I've mentioned, is not my favorite. I don't know, I really like the story though. I really like the romance. It's just once I get past the writing style is when I enjoy it more. The Christmas Wish by Lindsay Kelk. I genuinely could not tell you what this book's about. I literally read it in 2023, I think, so not even that long ago. I remember nothing about it. I didn't, like, when I was like compiling this list and I just saw the title, I was like, what is this book? Like, I could not even conjure up the cover in my head. I had to look it up. So this one's in I read this. This was mainly what I created this tier for, because I genuinely didn't remember reading this book. It was crazy. You With a View by Jessica Joyce. Straight up into soulmates. I loved this book so much. Like, high school rivals to lovers, a beautiful family story between her, like, about her grandma who passed away. The romance was so good. The characterization was so good. The writing was beautiful. I annotated it to no end. Absolutely adored. The X-Files I think I enjoyed a little bit less, but not because like it wasn't as good. I don't know. Yeah. I need to reread it, but I really enjoyed it. Then we have The Spanish Love Deception, the final book. This one for me is gonna go in Swoon. Not my favorite thing in the world. I appreciated it for what it was. The fake dating was fine. I just feel like the beginning was very slow. Like, it took far too long to get to the wedding. I was wanting the book to kind of be all about the wedding, like the whole book take place at the wedding, and that's just not what it was. But that brings us to the end of my tier ranking. This is what the final tiers look like. I'm pretty happy with this. I'm content. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Happy Valentine's Day. Give this video a huge thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Comment down below and let me know what your favorite romance books are. Subscribe if you have not yet already, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!